A woman is locked in a cell for a crime she never committed. They want one thing from her, a signature. All she has to do is sign and it's over. 6.5 years later, and she's still in that cell. Have you ever been in a situation where nothing you did could change the outcome? Something happens to you, right? And you had no say in it. There's nothing you can do to change it. There's nothing left for you to do but to live with it. Say, for example, that you lose your job because somebody above you made a call and you never got to weigh in on. The place shuts down or your position gets cut. There is nothing to argue about. There's no appeal. It already happened. Or maybe somebody says something about you that isn't true. You explain yourself once, twice, 10 times, and people already made up their minds before you got a chance to talk. Or what about this? Someone close to you makes a decision on their own. They leave, they cut you off, they walk away from something you would have fought for. You never got a vote. Whatever happened, happened. Those are different situations. Same feeling underneath all of them. You're not in control, and nobody's coming to make it right. That is a very hard place to land, because most of what we are taught about hard things assumes there is a fix on the other end. Work harder, say the right thing, wait it out, and it will resolve. But some things never get fixed. No one steps up to say sorry. The record stays wrong. You are left there with whatever is true about you, and nobody's there to back it up. So, what do you do with that? That is the exact same question a woman in Shanghai had to answer. Except for her, it wasn't a job or a rumor. It was 6.5 years in a prison cell for a crime she never committed. No one was coming to save her. Has anything like that ever happened to you? What do you do about it? Let me know in the comment section. Now to the story. It's 1966. China has been under communist rule for almost 20 years. Mao Zedong is the man in charge. And that summer, he launches something new, something he calls the Cultural Revolution. His message is simple. China still has all ideas hiding inside it. All habits, all customs, all ways of thinking that go back to before communists took over. Those old things need to be found and destroyed. He doesn't send an army to do it. He goes on students, teenagers mostly. Young people all over the country form groups called Red Guards, and they take Mao at his word. Anyone with money from before the revolution, anyone educated overseas, anyone who worked for a foreign company or speaks a foreign language or own foreign things, all of it becomes evidence of someone still loyal to the old world. An enemy hiding in plain sight. Being smart or rich or well-traveled used to mean something good. Now it means you are in trouble. In Shanghai, one of those people is a woman named Nien Cheng. She grew up with money and used it to get an education most people in China never get close to. She marries, and after her husband dies, she keeps working for the company he worked for, Shell Oil. One of those last Western companies still doing business in China. She lives in a big house full of art and porcelain she collected over a lifetime. Her daughter Mei Ping is in her early 20s by now, a pianist training to be an actress with the Shanghai Film Studio. The kind of person who noticed when someone else has less than she did and did something about it. By the summer of 1966, all of it, the house, The money, the foreign companies on Nien Cheng's resume has turned into a target. August 30th, morning. A crowd gathers outside her gate. Dozens of them show up wearing red armbands. Some are barely old enough to shave. They push their way onto her property, and the search begins. They start in her library. Books get put off the shelves and thrown into piles on the floor. Anything that looks like it belongs to a life they've been told to destroy. The piles get carried out to the courtyard and set on fire. Smoke rises over her garden through the whole afternoon. They move room to room. Vases get swept off the shelves and shattered on the floor. Paintings get put off the walls. Some turn straight through the canvas. Drawers get emptied out onto the floor and peeked through. Nothing in the house is off limits. Closets, cabinets, the bedroom. Nien Cheng follows them from room to room as it happens. She doesn't leave. She doesn't hide in a corner and wait for it to be over. She stands in the doorway of each room while it gets torn apart in front of her. By late afternoon, the house that took her many years to build is unrecognizable. Broken glass across the floor. Room strips down to the bare walls and empty shelves. Before they leave, they tell her what it means. She's being labeled an enemy of the state. A spy, they say, working for the British, hiding behind her years at Shell Oil and her time abroad. The house stays like that. Nobody comes to help her clean up. There is no one left in the neighborhood willing to be seen near her. She is alone in what used to be her home, and the accusation hanging over her head isn't going away. In the 4 weeks after her raid, Nien Cheng is placed under house arrest. She's forbidden from speaking to anyone. No visitors, no phone calls, nothing that connects her to the outside world. Mei Pin finds a way to reach her anyway. Small things. Whatever gets past the people watching. It doesn't last. 4 weeks after the raid, they come back for her. This time, they don't leave her in the house. She's arrested and taken to the #1 detention house in Shanghai and told her charge against her, she is a British spy. There is no real evidence behind it. The accusation is built on the same thing that made her a target in the first place. The years at Shell Oil. The education in London. The money. The life she lived before any of this started. The interrogation starts almost immediately. Officials sit across from her for hours at a time, asking the same questions over and over again, waiting for her to slip or crack or just get tired enough to say yes. They tell her a confession is the only way it ends. Everyone signs it eventually. That's how it always worked. Fighting only makes things worse for her. She doesn't sign. Instead, she starts fighting on their own ground. When they accuse her using the language of the revolution, that her wealth makes her the enemy of the people, that her education makes her a tool of the West, she answers back using Mao's own words, his own writings, his own speeches. She knows them well enough to use them against the exact accusations being thrown at her. It doesn't fit what they expect from her. They can prepare for someone to argue her innocence, or break down, or beg. Instead, they are sitting across from a woman using the party's own words to pick apart the case against her. More than once, it works. The interrogators lose their footing in the middle of a session that's supposed to end with her signing. It never ends the session, though. They leave and come back the next day and ask again. Weeks stretch into months. She's moved into a cell by herself. No trial date, No lawyer, no one tells her when this might end. No one comes to help her. Just the same room, the same demands, and whatever she can find in herself to keep saying no. The cell is small, cold in the winter. She is given almost nothing: thin blankets, bad food, no real medical care when she gets sick. There is no one to talk to, no proof anyone outside even remembers she's still alive. This goes for 6.5 years. She recites poetry to herself from memory to keep her mind sharp. She keeps track of the days so time doesn't turn into one shapeless blur. When guards come in to question her, she stands up straight and speaks clearly, even when her body is breaking down from the conditions. There are nights, she says later, when she comes close to giving them what they want. Just sign something, just make it stop. She lies in the dark, turning it over. Morning comes, she still hasn't signed anything. What she says carry her through isn't only her own will, it's her faith. She prays in that cell often, and something in her settles when she does. A kind of peace, she says, she never felt back when she was comfortable and easy. She insists on being treated with basic respect. Not because she thinks it will change her situation, but because letting that go feels like the real defeat. The confession is one kind of surrender. Losing herself is another. She holds the line on both. Guards mock her for it sometimes. Ask her who she thinks she is, still holding herself like that, still speaking like that in a cell with nothing left. She doesn't argue with them about it. The next day, she does the same thing again. Guards come and go. New faces sit across her, asking the same old question, like they are sitting there for the first time, asking it. She's still there, still saying the same thing, long after men who started this have moved on to something else. By 1973, they still don't have what they came for. No confession, no case that would hold up if anyone looked really closely. Just years of a woman in a cell, still saying no. There was never any real evidence. The door to her cell opens, and this time it doesn't close behind her again. No trial ever happened. No formal charge is ever proven. After 6.5 years, there was still nothing real behind the charge. It just falls apart on its own. She walks out, expecting one thing: to find her daughter, Mei Ping, waiting for her. Officials meet her instead. Before she can even ask where Mei Ping is, they already have an answer ready for her. She's been locked away for years with absolutely no idea any of this happened. And now they're telling her daughter is dead. They call it suicide. They say Mei Ping jumped from a building back in 1967, years earlier, while her mother sat in a cell not knowing any of it. Nien Cheng doesn't believe it, not for a second. She starts asking questions. She tracks down anyone who might know what actually happened that day. Neighbors, people who work with Mei Ping, anyone willing to talk to her. Piece by piece, a different story comes together. Mei Ping wasn't even hiding anything. She wasn't ashamed. When they pressured her to denounce her mother, she said no. That's what got her killed. Almost everyone around her wants her to stop. The record already says what it says, and she knows better than most what this government does to people who don't upset its version of events. She spends 6.5 years finding out firsthand. She keeps digging anyway. The man responsible for Mei Ping's death is eventually identified. A rebel worker named Hu Yonian. In 1980, Shanghai's authorities arrest him and give him a suspended death sentence. In 1995, he's let out on parole. By then, Nien Cheng is already gone from China. She leaves in 1980 and settled first in Canada, then in the United States. In 1986, she sits down and writes out everything. The raid, the 6.5 years, the search for the truth about her daughter. She calls it Life and Death in Shanghai. Hu Yonian serves part of the sentence and goes home. She builds a home of her own, an ocean away. Small apartment in Washington, D.C., writing at a desk by a window. Her book is still on shelves, still being taught decades later. She lives out the rest of her life in that apartment until she dies in 2009, in her 90s. The Cultural Revolution took her house. It took 6.5 years of her life. It took her daughter. It never took her faith. She turned to God where there was no one else. What should you do when you don't have justice in your favor? Look at what Nien Cheng actually went through. 6.5 years. Justice never came. She was alone in a cell with nobody coming to help her. And she leaned on something bigger than herself. This life is going to put you in situations exactly like that, where justice is nowhere to be found, where nobody's coming to make it right. And when that happens, do what she did. Lean on God. Lean on something higher than yourself. Your willpower will run out. Your mental strength runs out. You're going to have weak moments, moments where you're not strong enough to hold yourself together on your own. That's not a flaw. That's just what it means to be human. So you need something constant, something that doesn't run out when you do. Because if you don't have that, the moment you hit your lowest point, that's the moment you fall. That's the moment you drown. She survived because she leaned on something that never got tired. God never gets tired. He will never leave you. When nobody's coming to make it right, you still get to choose who you hold on to. What if your own strength isn't enough to hold you together? When life feels like it's slipping out of your hands, the first instinct almost all of us have is to try to grip tighter, hold on harder, try to control everything we possibly can so we don't lose anything else. But that's not what got her through 6.5 years in a cell. She didn't survive by controlling her situation. She had zero control over any of it. What she had was somewhere to put her weight when her own hands weren't strong enough to carry it anymore. The next time something happens that you can't fix, can't control, can't force into place no matter how hard you try, you have a choice. Grip tighter and wear yourself out, or let go and let God. The job that disappears without warning. The rumor that never goes away. The person who walks and never explains why. Whatever version of it finds you, you don't have to hold it yourself. Let go. Let God carry what you were never strong enough to carry alone. Thank you for watching, guys. This is episode 21. I can't believe we were there already. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.